There's a couple of questionable Republican congressmen named King, Steve King and Peter King. Steve King, just so you're clear on who, hates the Mexicans usually, and Peter King hates the Muslims. So they're the M&M brothers in a sense. Now, they're going to unite in this case to talk about how bad Obama is and the black communities across the country for not loving cops enough and for theoretically driving a wedge between all of us in America. So Steve King is going to begin to explain that. Let's let him go first.
I want to go with this wedge piece. But President Obama has consistently driven wedges between people, and he perceives a difference on race, on maybe on ethnicity. Well, yes, on ethnicity, sexual orientation, wedge after wedge after wedge. I didn't really imagine they were going to drive a wedge between the law and lawbreakers, but that seems to be what they're doing with law enforcement.
No, I know. There was no wedges in this country at all until Obama came. Like that whole wedge that the South might have created by having slavery. No. None of that happened until Obama came in and he said, I got a great idea. Why don't we split this country between blacks and whites? Goddamn Obama, what a devious plan he came up with. Anyway, and through all the civil rights movement, all the segregation, all the Jim Crow laws, that was a preemptory strike by Obama. All right, well, tell us more about this genius, Steve King.
The culture that has been created, I'll say yes. The culture that was created of that because they drove that culture in Ferguson, and it multiplied itself in Baltimore and then across the country. And if we had a different president, one that could look into the television camera and say, listen, God created all of us, and we cannot discriminate against people based upon the distinction that he's given each of us. A president who would do that sincerely and believe it would heal us together instead of divide us apart.
But wait a minute, that's exactly what Obama says over and over again. No matter what our race or creed is, we shouldn't discriminate. Oh, you mean a white president who should say that and mean don't discriminate against whites? Oh, my bad. I thought you meant don't discriminate against anybody, because that's exactly what Obama says. And did you catch his response to the question there in the beginning? They asked about whether Obama's responsible for Baltimore, and his answer was, he drives that culture in Ferguson, and it multiplied itself in Baltimore and across the country. Drives that culture. Gee, I wonder what you meant by that. I can't quite piece it together. If only you would just look into the camera and tell everybody not to discriminate, then I know your heart would be pure. Okay, now let's go to Peter King. He's going to say the cops are being discriminated against as well and being treated wholly unfairly. Let's begin that conversation.
You know, for a long time in this country, that was assumed that you wouldn't devote your life to protecting a community and put your life on the line every day if you weren't intending to protect. And yet, folks have taken a few incidents, many of which have turned out to be completely falsely represented, and run with the narrative we just heard from Mark Lamont Hill.
The fact is, cops are out there every day. Millions and millions of encounters with African Americans, Hispanics, whites, blacks, across the board. And we're talking about a handful of cases here, most of which have turned out to be untrue.
Now, if you really think it's just a handful of cases, why do you think the communities all across the country are so upset? You think that they're wrong? Like they never got harassed at all, and just one case happens, and they just flip out. They're like, oh my God, did you hear that one case? I mean, the cops have been protecting African Americans and Hispanics so well throughout. And, you know, how ungrateful are they that just those couple of cases made them flip out? Or could it be that perhaps there's an underlying problem? Well, let's see if they're going to explore that any further here on Fox News.
So, and many of which have been exploited by people who have an agenda.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you about Loretta Lynch, because our new Attorney General is out there calling, saying she's going to investigate law enforcement for allegedly discriminatory, racist behaviors in Baltimore. I mean, it was moments before Officer Moore was laid to rest, as the cops are lining up in New York City.
Right.
I mean, the timing didn't look all that sensitive.
No, it was not sensitive at all. And the fact is, if that was the other way around, it would be targeted as being racism. Attorney General Lynch should not have done that, and some of the national media should not have covered it. To me, it was the height of irresponsibility to be doing that at the same time that this brave cop, a neighbor of mine, Brian Moore was being laid to rest. Here's a cop, 25 years old, 150 arrests, shot through the face and through the brain. And, they're out talking about investigating cops. The fact is, everyone in America should be giving medals to the cops, and Brian more than anyone. And the fact that he got such a large turnout today shows to me that real Americans, real people on the ground do appreciate the cops. Unfortunately, too many in the national media and too many politicians listen to the likes of Al Sharpton.
All right, so first of all, let's address the timing issue. Oh, my God. While Brian Moore is being laid to rest, the Attorney General comes out and says they're going to investigate the Baltimore cops. Now, look, it's a bad piece of politics to put it on the same day, but you think they did it like on purpose? Oh, we'll show those cops, right? No, they didn't intend that. They make such a big deal out of small things. Does that matter? Look, have the police in Baltimore been systematically abusing African Americans and the city of Baltimore? Okay, no, we need to delay that investigation because it would look bad for optics. Or don't do that investigation because a cop got shot in New York. The cop getting shot in New York is horrible, but it has nothing to do with the Baltimore investigation. Nothing. Okay, point number two. I'm getting a little tired of Megyn Kelly's hot but annoying scolding look that she's, these people, constantly with this look, like, what are they doing? The cops have been great to them, and yet they're all complaining. Hey, listen, schmucks, both Megyn Kelly and Peter King here, as he says, Peter King says, everyone in America should give medals to the cops. Did it not occur to you why other people might not feel that way? Now, so if I thought, hey, in my experience, cops have been great to me. All they've ever done is protect my family. But I see a whole group of people over there who don't like cops or who are protesting against cops, who have a lot of concerns about cops. My natural question is, wow, that's interesting. Like, what's going on over there? I wonder what their issue is. I would be surprised by that, and I'd want to know. His reaction is, shut up and give the cops medals, because they're treating me great. So you see that? They don't give a damn. They don't care. They're not. What do you think Fox News and Republican congressmen are going to investigate why the people of Baltimore, why the people of Ferguson and all across this country might be disaffected by the police? Maybe there's a legitimate issue. They don't want to know the legitimate issue. That's why they don't want to investigate it, and that's why they go out on TV and say, oh, no, you did it on the wrong day. You did it in the wrong way. It's Obama's fault. We never had any racial issues until Obama. It's anyone but the cops' fault, okay? At least be a human being and genuinely care enough about that community to ask, hey, why are you guys so mad? But they don't even bother asking that.
It starts with a level of respect for a group of people, a group of citizens that has grievances. So if you think that someone is beneath you or that they have no reason to even have anything to be said or that they have no legitimacy, then you're going to go, oh, well, they're just out to screw over the system, to come after us, to go after cops, because that's what the real problem is. It's a part of racism. Someone's beneath you. You don't have to listen to them. Oh, just get out of the way. All you're trying to do is get over. It all comes down to that. And no one really understands that. You can say this and then we can stand by the cops. You know who has a actual history for tearing people down and lying when there's no actual video evidence? The police. Let's keep it real. So if there was this history of a certain group of people consistently and always killing and always getting away with it, you might go, they don't have much of a leg to stand on. But we automatically believe what police officers say. We've seen it happen directly. As soon as they say what happened and you see a video that's the exact opposite, people don't go, wow. You think maybe people who complain about this have some kind of ground to stand on. What's the organizational factor behind this? Why would tons of people come to the streets because of what happened in New York when they live in LA? And they go, you know what? I never knew this guy in New York, but let's just do it. Let's all get together and come out and protest because it's fun. We're not affected by this. It doesn't happen to us. It's purposeful ignorance on the situation, honestly.
Yeah, now, for example, there was a story once about a Turkish cabbie in New York who got abused by the police. Did Turks across the country come out and say, okay, that's it, we're protesting against the cops? No. You know why? Because there is no history of cops picking on Turks. They don't even know who the fuck we are, right? So that doesn't exist. So there was no spontaneous burst of energy by the Turkish Americans across the country or in New York, like, oh my God, we're going to protect that cabbie. No, they thought, well, the cabbie's probably an idiot. I remember a story of a Turkish cabbie in New York going on the sidewalk and running people over because he was in a hurry. So, like, that's not real. See, like, if there was a situation like that where the guy is wrong and the cops are right, then this spontaneous thing doesn't happen. It happens because JR living in LA feels the same frustration as the guy in Ferguson, as the guy in New York, and as the guy in Baltimore, because they all have the same experience. Well, you think it's a coincidence that they had the same experience? But the reality is, Peter King looks at it and thinks of it as, I don't care about them. Did you notice what he said at the end? He said, well, when I see Brian Moore's funeral, I saw that real people showed up, right? See, it's us versus them, right? Real people count, other people don't count. So who cares when they show up, when people that look like me and that I actually serve come and show up at a funeral? Those are real people, right?
Imagine the outrage if when these cops get killed. I think it happened down in one of the latest ones, down in North Carolina, South Carolina recently, like last week. It said, oh, it's a handful of cases. Sure, they're criminals who kill cops, but who cares? It's a handful of cases. I'm sure those cops have done something wrong in their past. Think about the outrage and that you're telling this family. We're completely disregarding the fact that these people have been killed and they have families and they were murdered. So you talk about how he got shot in the head and his brain blew out. So let's give those graphic details so we can talk about how bad this one side is and how great the other side is, so that and therefore nothing was ever done from the good side. There's criminals who kill cops. Think about if you come out and say that, oh, it's just a handful of criminals. Shut the fuck up, police families. Shut up. You signed up for this. It's heartless, but you can do it the other way and it's fine.
Yeah, and by the way, when cops get killed, there is no character assassination after the fact. There's the heroic funerals, as there should be, right? We don't do the same things that they do, right, that JR is alluding to here. But if anybody did, it would be an outrage. Can you imagine after a cop gets shot in the head, they're like, well, yeah, but did he smoke pot? What was in his bloodstream? The same thing, anytime a cop shoots somebody, they go, oh, did he have a criminal past? Did he ever smoke a joint? What was in his bloodstream? Let's do the toxicology report. Let's look into his criminal background. Can you imagine after a cop gets shot, they're like, oh, I don't know. Did he have pot in his system? That would be outrageous, right? Why isn't it outrageous the other way around? Because it's us versus them.